New episode of the Eben Flow coming at you hot. I'm talking with my brother Gus about the phenomenon of online dating, particularly ghosting. This thing that happens when we meet people through a medium like the internet or like a dating app, and the ease by which we are able to completely disconnect from a conversation that is seemingly going somewhere. Nobody likes it. It's disconcerting. It feels abrupt. It feels disingenuous, rude, whatever you want to call it. Nobody likes to be ghosted. Ghosting on the Ebb and Flow this week. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you can't. I think you'll enjoy this conversation either way. This week's episode brought to you by our friends and family over at Quicksilver Scientific. These are the absolute best products on the market when it comes to liposomal delivery of adaptogens like ginseng, ashwagandha, astragalus. Great for cognitive function, great for immune system support. Everything you could possibly need to optimize your well-being, they've got it. Two of my favorites, Nano Fuel, great for the brain, and also Membrane Mend for the cellular support, cellular repair. And then finally, our friends at Onda Wellness. Check them out, ondawellness.com. Got some of the best CBD products on the planet. It's all sourced from regenerative farmed hemp, combined with things like ashwagandha and tulsi, lemon balm. My favorite tincture is Adios Anxiety. Use code EBENB to get yourself a nice discount there at ondawellness.com. Lots of love, guys. Enjoy this episode. I got to get to these burgers. Peace.
You have unlocked the eternal link to internal source, the key of imagination, your admission, access to the enlightened dimension. A gateway at the junction of darkness and light, the place at which the chaos of our conditioned frame of mind give way to a life in constant flux, only to be mastered through vigilant discipline. Peaceful times may come, testing times may go. This is the Ebb and Flow.
Gus, great to have you back on the flow.
It's good to be here. It's the Ebb and Flow. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
It's a good shirt.
Season 2. This is one of our shirts, dude.
I know, dude. It's
a
good one.
Nobody cares shirt.
Nobody for president. Nobody for president. Instagram ixnayed that post, huh?
Yeah, wasn't that interesting? I posted this shirt and they took it down.
What a fucking, what?
Isn't that weird?
How strange.
Yeah.
Anyway, great to be here with you.
But it is available on Higher Power Workshop.
HigherPowerWorkshop.com. It's
Nobody for President tee.
Going to be a timely shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Starting to percolate, although I am all in Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah, me too.
2024.
Me too.
Bobby Ken.
Well, I won't take credit for this shirt. It actually came from Ramdas talks about it. That clown, the famous clown, Wavy Gravy.
Oh yeah.
He came up with this. Nobody for president, and then his slogan was "Nobody cares," which it says on the back.
I love that.
It's kind of fun. So, what are we here to talk about, dude?
Well,
our book.
Which one?
Dating in the Digital Age.
Yeah, dude. Well, this is a really interesting topic that you have depths of experience about.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's weird.
I've skimmed the surface.
Right.
And especially over the last year, interesting. I had a really interesting experience with online dating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, I'd love for you. This has been, because this is a recurring theme in a lot of your work.
It is, it seems like.
And it feels like from How to Kill a White Man to Generation Ass. Really everything.
Coney Island Whitefish.
Coney Island Whitefish. And your new book coming out.
Yeah.
What's your new book called?
What's the other one I have? What is the other one I have out? I don't know.
Cam Girl or
Cam Girl. That's a dating app story.
Well, it's part of the through line. It's sort of this thread in the contemporary adult life.
Well,
is dealing with or navigating this thing of meeting people, connecting with people, meeting people, dating through apps.
Right. And it doesn't seem like any age group is immune to. You know, when we screened How to Kill a White Man, I said after the screening, I said, you know, or whatever, I've thought this film is kind of for more millennials, Generation X. I don't even know what they're called anymore. Basically, not really for baby boomer type and then beyond. But I had this woman came up to me after, and she was like, I think she was in her late 60s, potentially early 70s, and was like, I related to this so much. So this is something that everybody's doing now. We're all participating in this.
Interesting.
You know? So what I find particularly interesting and compelling about writing these stories is that, you know, Instagram, social media, we can't deny that this is a new community. This is the new kind of digital community. So what I'm concerned with, particularly in this book, which is called Thank You for Ghosting Me, Dating in the Digital Age, which is going to be short stories, which you're writing the foreword to.
Yeah.
Something that I feel like we need to address is when we're participating in this, we can't really pretend anymore that this realm is over there and real life is over here. This is a realm that we're in, and we need to uphold spiritual integrity in this realm as well as the real world now. So when you ghost somebody, are you participating in a healthy spiritual life?
Yeah.
We can't really, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's something, and I'm not the poster boy of dating app health, you know, optimal health in a way. I'm certainly better. In terms of ghosting people, I've certainly done it. I think we all have. But there's so many different elements of it that I think need to be talked about more because it's how people are communicating these days.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I love about your perspective on it is always coming from the point of view of someone who is struggling with it and genuinely interested in understanding or figuring out how do we navigate this from a place of mental and emotional and spiritual well-being.
Yeah.
You know, and not let it just become this black hole vortex of meaningless sexual connection or the ghosting or, you know, these types of things, you know?
Yeah, and this machine that can very easily cultivate resentment, which we need less of. We don't want to be walking around with more resentment than we already may have. And I think something that's challenging with the dating apps is that you meet so many people, although that could be disputed because some people don't meet people on the dating apps, where, you know, it's hard to tell. It's just a breeding ground to practice telling the truth and allowing the other person to have their feelings. Like, because why are you ghosting somebody, first of all? I think it's because...
What can we define, what does ghosting mean? Like, when is it you just stopped responding to somebody, and when is it you ghosted them.
So, well, I think this is when the semantics, if you will, of ghosting becomes interesting, is that, I've heard people say, well, first of all, there's that saying, rejection is God's protection.
Yeah.
So from the person
that's
being ghosted, potentially it's great. God just saved you from that potentially horrible relationship or something that you didn't need to waste your time on.
Right.
But then I think it's a feeling thing. It's a feeling thing, which potentially one person could be feeling something and the other person could be feeling nothing. Like, if I make a connection with somebody and we set up a date and then I just suddenly don't hear from you, I'm going to feel a certain way. That's very hurtful.
Uh-huh.
So
ghosting is a connection has been established.
Right.
There's been some ground that's been set underneath the feet of the relationship.
I believe, yes.
And then you just drop off the face of the earth.
Yes. And somebody could say, which I've posited, and, do I owe you anything? In terms of ghosting somebody?
Uh-huh.
Like, I've never even met you.
Uh-huh.
And I've never even met you.
So this is a thing of you've actually said, hey, we're going to go on a date this day, this time, at this place. You show up and nothing.
You don't even show up. This is they stop responding. That's a whole other level that you usually don't even get to. No.
Okay.
That would be like being stood up.
Yeah, that would be pretty hurtful as well.
I feel like on the apps or on the phones, you end up stopping talking. Or you meet, you have one date, you say, hey, how you doing? And then they never respond. So I think it's what you're saying. There's a ground that you can feel has been established, and then one of the other persons breaks the connection without tying up the loop.
Right.
So you've now you have this karmic thread that's loose.
It's just like waving in the wind.
Yeah, and you're just going, and you may never hear from them again, so you have to just sit with it. And then, I've had the experience where, like back to this thing, do I owe you anything or do you owe me anything? If you ghost me, do I really have the right to say to you, hey, that was hurtful? Like, I think if we're trying to uphold some sort of spiritual integrity, we should be able to say that.
1,000%. If this is, let me tell you my experience with the online dating.
Yeah.
So I was about 8 or 9 months post-divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what the hell? I'm going to try this online dating thing. I get on Bumble, right? Get on Bumble. And immediately all the things that you've talked about start to occur to me.
Yeah.
There's like limitless options.
Mm-hmm.
You're attempting to see if there's a connection based on 1 to 3 pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And then like super surface level information about likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
Right. And so you gave me the pro tip, go incognito, so that they can't see your profile unless you've swiped right on them.
Oh, right.
Because I had like fucking 1,000, people who had swiped right on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, holy shit.
Which isn't a bad problem to have.
No. I mean, hey, I will say it.
Wait, let me say one thing. There's this new therapist who's on Instagram. I've seen him recently. I think this is really important to say, so we're not like going over, because there's a lot of people that get no matches. And he was saying this has become a really dangerous, terrible problem, particularly for men. He said there's a big 90% of men on the dating apps get no matches, and then there's a small sliver of men who get all the matches.
Interesting.
For whatever reason. They know how to take photos. They know what to say.
Right.
You know,
Their profile's enticing. They've created an enticing profile.
right. So,
and I'm not saying it was just for me and my purposes. Like, I want to meet somebody and connect with somebody. Like, that's what I'm doing on there.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily like I'm thinking I need to meet my wife, but like it would be nice to just meet a female who I could connect with intellectually, like have a great conversation with over coffee. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying that was a bad thing at all. I want to clarify. It was overwhelming for me and my purposes of just looking to connect with somebody new.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on 3 Bumble dates. Okay. And each one, I'm going to say this in a way, all of these girls were women. All of these women were beautiful, sweet, kind, very interesting, very intelligent. And what I recognized in myself the moment I saw them walk in the door of the place was, oh, I would have never asked this person on a date had I been in the same room with them. You know, like had I known them in some other capacity outside of this online dating, like say I ran into them at work, or, you know, I was in a yoga class with them, or whatever it was, like not one of them I would have asked on a date. And it was like, oh, it was really interesting to see, like there's something deeper than looks, than, you know, anything that could be articulated on a screen, on a profile. There's something much deeper about the energy of like how a person walks, how they carry themselves, how they stand, the look in their eyes, how they dress, like
the pheromones.
Like the unseen stuff, the tangible and intangible elements of attraction. And I was like, whoa, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
All 3 of them. I felt that way.
I know.
And then I will say, I went on to have like 3 awesome coffee dates with 3 women who were super interesting, super cool, super fun, who afterwards, I haven't actually stayed in touch with any of them, but afterwards I would say like, those are women that I would be friends with, not romantically. And I'm sure to some extent, and maybe all the way through, they would say the same about me. Like, oh, I never would have approached that big, burly, like, you know, intense energy, big guy, you know?
Yeah. There's something really...
So just to round that out, like that was a really interesting experience for me. And it made me realize, because initially you get on there, you're a single guy and you go, whoa, dude, this is like the cornucopia, you know, this is like what you dreamed about, you know, all these women and all these different looks and likes and ideas and people. And it's like, it's so exciting and interesting. And then very quickly you realize like how actually fucking narrow the pool of like someone you would actually end up being romantically involved with is.
Yeah.
So that's really my experience with online dating in a nutshell.
I would love to know, which we will probably not know until maybe 10 years, 20 years from now, how many people met on dating apps and end up getting actually like married and staying in long-term relationships. There's something really fascinating in terms of what you're saying that I've thought about in this primal element, this pheromonal element, this also God element to me that we seem to be breaking or disturbing when we meet people on the dating apps.
Yeah.
I've gone on more dating apps than a person should probably, more dating app dates than a person should probably ever admit to. And none of them I'm with.
Yeah.
There's something, I think.
How many are you still in contact with? Just curious. As like friends or...
I don't know.
Very few?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's something godly about meeting somebody meeting somebody in person. There's something organic that, dude, I've met people on the apps where I'm like, wow, you're like extraordinarily beautiful, but like I think we might have skipped a step, that if you don't do that step, you can't get into the relationship.
Yeah.
I think there might be some relationship molecule in your spirit that needs to meet the person in person. I think there could be something there. Otherwise,
Definitely, bro.
Otherwise, because maybe love is born out of that pheromonal first thing that you see.
Well, there's so
and
much.
You can't surpass that step. And something I've been battling with, I feel like, with being on the dating apps, because let's face it, it can be hard in this world to meet people out, I think, or it can expedite it.
It
being
seems
on the apps.
like it. It seems like it. I don't know where you really meet people. To me, it's like,
well,
any girl that I would want to be in to date I'd probably meet her in like a yoga class,
right,
or like.
Well, but something I've tried to surrender to is, okay, well, maybe this is the new place where this is how we meet people organically. Like, can there be like a Deus Ex Machina, which means God in the machine? Like, can God live in this thing? But I don't know if that's true.
It seems like, to me, that was so clear, dude. One after the other, I was truly like, wow, there's zero attraction.
Mm-hmm.
There's zero gravity.
But there's
zero magnetism.
What's funny
here
is that you may have had that attraction if you actually saw them in person.
Maybe.
Prior to the app.
Maybe.
There's something primal, hunter-gatherer-esque about a man, even though if it's in contemporary places, you're in a grocery store and you see something across the aisle and something turns on that doesn't turn on the app, to where that sort of mission, that sort of soul or primal mission, where you have to go approach them. There's something that seems to be really important about that step in the dating process that when you're doing it digitally doesn't happen, which may be why all of this ghosting happens.
Interesting. So the ghosting, are you making an argument that the ghosting is the result of that lack of attraction, that lack of true attraction? Because to me, like, that's the word. You know, it's like when you're attracted to somebody, you feel that in your body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like your heart rate amps up. You get really excited, like you're stoked on life. Well, you know, when you feel that attraction to a person. And there's like a little element of it, but it's a facade really through the app.
Right.
Because you go, ooh, they look sexy in a bikini, or they look really stylish at that cocktail party, or you know, whatever it is. And they like fucking Ozzy Osbourne and Van Halen too, and they like eating, you know, they're on a keto diet or whatever it is, you know.
Well, every one of my relationships, actually, just looking back, I met them in person.
Every real relationship,
every longer term relationship, I met them in person.
Well, me too.
And I recently met somebody that I feel like the love molecule was unlocked, and I met them in person.
Love that, bro.
But I just don't think you can do it on the apps.
Well, you know, I mean, one of the first ones of this, before Tinder was even a thing, which another thing I want to ask you about is like how much of this is just like a fucking easy way to get a booty call, you know, like how many people are just, which to me it just doesn't work for me. Like to just meet somebody you have no idea who they are and then have sex with them and like fucking, exchange that, that information, that saliva, that DNA, like to put yourself as a man, to put myself inside of somebody who like, I have no idea who they are, where they come from, and like nothing else but that. It's impossible for me at this stage. And how many people are doing that?
I agree. Yeah.
No, it just is, because it's like, that's not.
Well, of course.
I don't know. That's not interesting. It's not like.
Well, you're conscious. You're not living from.
Yeah, and it's like that takes more than it gives,
Right.
For that, moment of orgasm, explosion of bliss, like, there's this thing of like, when you have sex with somebody, you are mingling, their DNA is mingling with yours for 7 years.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
That's incredible.
Like, it's like enmeshed in your DNA.
Wow. That's fucking awful.
Yeah, well, before Tinder and before all this shit like exploded. Yeah, so think about that, dude.
Yeah.
Same thing about the people that, you're thinking you're just going to like have sex with this person. It's like, you're going to be carrying their shit around for 7 years.
Think about a porn star.
Oh, bro. I mean, that's like a podcast in and of itself. And maybe we'll get into that in this one. But,
I think.
Wait, but there were these online like matching apps, like websites, like Match.com, or there was the one with the old guy. They would have commercials on TV.
eHarmony.
eHarmony, bro.
Yeah. Well,
I remember in college I did a fucking eHarmony. I never sent it in because I don't think I like filled it out, but it was super in depth.
Yeah. God.
But
well, there is a thing called hookup culture, which you hear about. Whatever, I don't even really know what that means.
So that's just having sex with people? Like,
yeah, I guess that's what that means.
I mean, hey, dude, whatever. Like, once again, I know nothing, and do your thing until you find God, till you find yourself. And if that's part of the journey, go for it. Like, I'm not talking down on anything. For me, it just seems like, we're way too laissez-faire about who we're mashing bodies with. You know what I mean? Like, it's just way too like, it doesn't matter, and it totally matters.
A lot of people are. I mean, if you're living lower down in your chakra system, if you're living more in your desire system, then you can do that and be less conscious of it. I mean, I think you still will feel like shit, but the higher you get in your consciousness, I don't think you can do it. You can't do it. I'm extremely, I feel like I'm much slower to get physical with people now than I was years ago. And somebody could say, oh, well, you're getting older and wiser now. And, if being older and wiser runs parallel with having a higher consciousness and a deeper sense of self, then I guess so. Although there's older people that sleep around, so I don't know if that's true. But,
it's interesting.
What?
There's older people who sleep around.
Aren't there? I would assume so.
Yeah, I guess so. Of course.
Probably.
Just never really thought about it.
I don't know if age.
No, I think what you started this thing off with was totally right. Like, this is a ubiquitous thing.
Yeah.
With people who are romantically active, sexually active, like, in relationships with people.
Yeah.
In romantic relationships.
It's funny how God has, like, in this day and age, he's thrown us all the desires. Of course, I think of, like, Rome, but, like, he's just thrown us all the things, and he's like, I'm going to just expedite your guys' spiritual evolution.
Yeah.
Because.
So.
Yeah.
Why are you titling this project, Thank You for Ghosting Me?
Because it's kind of funny. I mean, it's kind of funny and ironic.
Is it because the ghosting allows for this opportunity of self-reflection and clarity in like, what am I doing here?
Well, it's ironic in that I'm not happy you ghosted me, but it's also part of what you're saying. It's provided me with a spiritual opportunity.
And the
growth.
rejection is protection?
Yeah. Well, that's part of it. These are stories. It's not like they're written as stories. It's not written as me writing down like, the scientist, scientific type shit. Of
course. Well, for me, it was a really, really powerful illumination of the vital elements of attraction that are non-existent through an app.
Mm-hmm.
That it was revelatory.
Right.
For me. I was like, wow. Because all three of them, I was excited to go on the date.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is like a really cute girl that I'm excited to spend some time with.
Yeah.
And literally, like within a moment, I was being in their presence, I was like, oh, how interesting. Like, I never would have gone on a date with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had it not been for this thing.
Right.
And
well, I want to say the reason I'm writing this, or that I felt compelled to write this and publish this, is because, first of all, I'm a cultural commentator.
Yeah.
You're a cultural I think everybody that's an artist that is worthwhile ends up being a cultural commentator. But we all have our own flavor of how we comment on culture. So one of the things that because I'm seeking a relationship and I'm a younger person, and this seems to be one of the arenas that a lot of younger people are playing in. So I feel like this is something that there needs to be shed light on, and hopefully provide some more holisticity in the equation, so we can potentially approach this in a healthier way. When you ghost somebody, you're creating baggage for yourself and the other person. And I think we need less baggage, and we need to be able to feel like we can be more honest with each other. And that's hard because a lot of times the truth hurts. I think we probably ghost people because we don't want to hurt them. And we probably ghost people because we don't want them to be mad at us. Like if we say, hey, I just don't think you're right for me. What if they say, go fuck yourself? We don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
So I think, we talk a lot about like this Sat Yuga thing, this age of truth. We're in an age where we need to cultivate the truth in all of these different realms. So this is one of the realms that I feel like is really prevalent and becoming more ubiquitous now, that I think we should talk about.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I mean, I love that you shine a light on this.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. Like, even like How to Kill a White Man as a commentary on navigating life in the modern era, which includes social media, online dating, drugs, etc. It's like, what does that look like? What are the repercussions of that? What are the downfalls of that experience? And then like, what are the solutions? Like, how do we make it work so that we're not all, fucking rolled up in a ball of self-resentment and mind chaos and shit,
Yeah.
Unable to function.
Yeah. And potentially this could help us recognize, like this conversation too, recognize like maybe the dating apps are not what we should be doing. Because everybody needs a relationship and wants a relationship. Unless you're some enlightened being, but that's 1 in 9 billion. So, we need relationships, and particularly for men. I think there's a lot of men that, this arena doesn't work for them. And I mean, dude, I'm somebody that I'm in the category, I would say, of the men that gets the matches, and it's not even working for me. So, this is something that I feel like we need to look at. And men are becoming less inclined to speak to people. Incels are not born, they're made. Involuntary celibates are not born, they're made. They're made by culture. You're not born an incel. You're made by your surroundings. And this is one of the arenas that can create incels. Men that can't speak to women, women that can't be approached. I mean, I was in the grocery store the other day. And I practice now saying hello to people in person, because I'm like, dude, I'm not going only this, like, yes, I can potentially find dates on here, but I need to practice this primal muscle. I was in the grocery store. I see this girl. I'm in the cereal aisle. She's walking up the aisle. She's pretty. And I can feel it. I can feel something. And I'm like, should I say she's pretty? Should I tell her she's pretty? I walk by. I walk back. I say, hey, you're pretty. She doesn't really hear me or something. And I go, hey, you're really pretty. And she goes, thanks. And then walks away. And I'm like, darling, first of all, who am I? You don't need to indulge me in a conversation. But it felt very much like she couldn't be there to hear that and witness that. This isn't all the time.
Yeah.
I went up to another woman outside Erewhon. I said, hey, you're really pretty. I wanted to say hello. She's like, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I was like, do you have a boyfriend? And she was like, yeah, I have a boyfriend. We like shook hands and said our names. And I was like, oh, I just wanted to say hello. So like some of the encounters are good, but we don't want to perpetuate these things, and lose our animal stuff, man.
Yeah,
we don't want to lose this stuff, dude.
Well, it's the
then
life
you get
force.
fucking hooked up on tubes. Before you know it, you're watching Oculus and your dick is hooked up to a tube. You don't want this shit. We've talked about this, man. We're just writing a book about it now, so. It's fucking Oculus shit.
I know, dude.
You.
It's insane.
Go fuck yourself. With
Fuck all that shit, bro.
Throw that shit in the trash.
Throw it in the fucking garbage.
Apple, send me one so I can throw it in the trash.
Yeah, fuck all of that.
Fuck you.
No, you're totally right, man. Well, it's our life force, man. That's all an expression of our life force.
Right.
Like you saying that thing. There's something bubbling inside.
Yeah.
There's something bubbling inside, and what an exercise of just like expressing it in some way. Maybe it looks like shit.
Yeah.
Maybe you fall flat on your face, but cultivating that muscle, building that muscle of expressing, of exercising, the percolation, the heat that's developing on the inside, that's a fucking big deal, because that translates to so many things that you don't even realize. That translates to your operation in the world, like how you operate in the world. And when you flex that muscle, you work that muscle of uncomfortably expressing that thing that's going on inside of you. Even like that, dude, kudos to you, man. I don't know if I don't know if I have that. But I think that's a beautiful exercise of just like, hey, there's something happening in here when as I've come into the presence of this being. Let me just say something to them. Let me connect with them, and exercise that thing.
Yeah. And I think it's also a beautiful practice of goodwill.
Totally.
That was one of the dicey, slippery elements of the Me Too movement, which was powerful and important, but it created a lot of fear in men in approaching women. Yeah. Because it created this dynamic where men felt like they were weirdos. It's like, dude, if we can't go up to somebody and say, hey, you're really beautiful, that's a problem. That is a real problem.
Yeah.
That we, dude.
Well, it's really, it's all in the book. Have you been reading Iron John?
It's so funny. I literally downloaded the audiobook today.
Yeah. I
so
mean,
funny.
Iron John, Robert Bly. He really talks about this, man. And it's not a new thing, but this cultural obsession with degrading the father, degrading the masculine. I mean, from an American culture standpoint, it goes back to the 30s with cartoons where the men were always buffoons. And you see it in television and movies all the time. Like in Netflix, all of the men, like in Stranger Things, take that show as an example. All of the men are either not to be trusted, evil, are like bumbling buffoons, or like Hopper, who's sort of the hero, the ultimate masculine archetype. One of my actual favorite characters of all time. But like, to start the show, he's a fucking alcoholic pillhead who's also the sheriff of this town.
Right. And
like, the kids are all the heroes. And then the women are like doing anything that's worthwhile. You know what I mean? And this is fucking old. Like, this archetype has been going on for a long time. And, you know, it's something that if we are going to get where we need to go as a civilization, humans, men, it's really on us, because like women are gonna, like, we need to change the narrative of showing up in our fucking divine masculinity, which is being the mountain and also being connected to this super primal wildness that's necessary, that's really attractive to females, that allows women actually the opportunity to be in their feminine. Because now we've got a society where men have been culturally emasculated, and so the women are all walking around fucking locked in masculinity.
Right.
Because they need to be in charge.
Yep.
And it's killing relationships. I know firsthand. I've been there. You know, and so like it's a two-way street, but it's a two-way street because always it takes two to tango. However, men, like, it's do or die for us of like, we need to step the fuck up. And show, it's not about like, you know, it's not about necessarily anything other than us doing it for ourselves, because that will transform us. It's, once again, you work on you work on yourself, the whole world changes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because your relationship to women, you will come into rooms with women. I'm talking to the men. You'll come into rooms with women and they'll go, that's a man, I can be safe. I feel secure around that individual.
Right.
It'll just be how you stand. It'll be your fucking energy that's emanating out from you, because you've gone inside and you've started to connect back to your divine masculinity, which is essentially tethered to this really interesting primitive wildness that's the bedrock of anything, which has to do with the development of your soul.
Yeah. And what I think is interesting,
I don't know if that even made sense.
It does. Well, something that jumped out at me at that is that men are the spearhead of relationships. Women do not initiate relationships. How many times in your life has a woman initiated the contact? That does not happen.
Yeah, that's true.
That's happened maybe 1 in 1,000 times in your life. Like, so if we create a culture, back to your emasculation point, if we create a culture, which we've seemed to have created or are in the process of creating, which is why we're doing this work and writing this, of dismantling this, if we create a culture of emasculation, then we're not going to have relationships anymore, because we're going to have men that won't approach women. And that's a problem. That like you said, that creates a lot of angst in the females.
Yeah.
This isn't just a male problem. This is a male and female. It's also not really just a heterosexual problem. I've had homosexuals talk to me about, how ghosting has affected them as well, getting into relationships. So, this is something I feel like across the board we need to look at. I don't know what the homosexual dynamic is of male, female, how that all works, and, cultivating the, masculine and feminine aspects of being together. But, I think it's across the board in this affecting people and how they're, initiating relationships and then keeping the relationship alive. Yeah, dude, there's way less people getting married. There's way less people having children. Every person I meet that's somewhere around my age, we're just like, dude, we don't know how to have kids. Like, I don't have a house. I don't have the economic climate. I mean, there's just, there's a lot going on in terms of relationships, and relationships seem to be the bedrock of human existence. So I think it's important stuff to talk about,
Super important, dude. Super important. I mean,
it's not really population. It's not really that there's too many people. There's going to be not enough people at some point.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting paradox of it.
Because nobody's having kids now.
Yeah. Fewer and fewer people are having kids. Yeah.
And then I could.
Well, I know you've got a roll, but.
Well, yeah. I mean, what do you think?
I think this was great. This was epic. I mean, I'm sure we'll have more conversations about this.
Yeah.
But,
we could do another one after we release the book.
Yeah. I think it's great scratching the surface, especially as online dating as a portal into what's not working in our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like where do we really need to focus our attention, our energy as men, as women, in cultivating really meaningful relationships,
And like, my mom says, our mom says about the relationship, she says, about the dating apps, don't take it personally, in terms of the ghosting, like if it's affected you, like, but then how can you not? I mean, what's the point of writing the book if we're not taking it personally? I think it's both. But ultimately, I think the solution is, or one of the solutions is to look at it. It's more information. It's more information for your self-realization.
Yeah.
It's more information from God. Is this where I'm supposed to be? Oh, how did that feel being rejected? Oh, how did that feel rejecting somebody? How did that feel being ghosted? How did that feel ghosting somebody?
Yeah.
Like you were saying, how does it feel sleeping with somebody that I don't know?
Uh-huh.
It's all information. Everything we come into contact with, as far as I can tell, seems to be just more information from God that is helping along our process in self-realization.
Yeah. Well, I think in something like this, if you're interested in being of service to your life and humanity to a greater extent, like taking it personally to the extent that you find a solution to this issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To this disruption.
Yeah.
It's great stuff, brother.
Okay, cool.
Love you, man.
Love you.
So,
Thank
bro.
you. Thank you, brother.
All right, y'all. Well, you know what it is. We'll see y'all on the flip side.
And the books, I think will be out August 1st, but if this comes out before then or after, we'll figure it out.
We could time it up.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right, bro.
Yeah.
All right,
Namaste.
y'all. Namaste. Love y'all. Peace.